Hey you! Yes, you, watching this video. Do you want to own a piece of Scribbler? Only not a lock of hair or blood or flesh or anything else that will get you in trouble with the law? Well, now you can, with t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags and mugs featuring Obab Scribbler at her Teespring store. You know you want to. I shall now stop talking in third person and send you on to the video. Be lovely to each other and enjoy the show.
Applejack took no joy in watching other ponies suffer. Being raised by decent, hard-working folk, empathy was a core value instilled into the little apple filly's head. She always made sure to help every pony in need with a smile and a good attitude, because that was the kind of mare she was. However, as she sat on her bed, mouthful of watermelon, and a foal in her womb, she couldn't help but feel nothing short of amusement watching her beloved wife run herself ragged yelling at Granny Smith over every little detail concerning her pregnancy.
No, Granny! I respect your ways, but Applejack is not having it in the house, and it is not being delivered by you!
You listen here, child. My son was born in this here house, and all I had was my mama to help me through, and my son's young'uns were born in this here house, and I birthed all of them too, having only done cows before. I think your little foal's gonna be just fine, all in all.
Twilight's eye twitched. Her hair was a disheveled mess, her face worn down from stress and sleep deprivation. The poor thing. Applejack knew that all of this business was keeping her up at night. Or rather, she would have noticed if she herself hadn't been so tired all the time. But still, she could tell that this was very stressful for her wife. She would have piped in, but watermelon came first, unfortunately, so her mouth was occupied. Twilight breathed a heavy sigh.
Granny, I am not going to put the baby at risk because of your traditions. My foal is going to be delivered at a hospital by a trained professional. The baby will be alive and healthy.
Granny Smith looked downright indignant at this point.
Oh, I see how it is. Y'all think I'm just a senile old coot who can't even birth my own great-grandfoal. Shoot, I'm surprised y'all don't think I'll chuck it out the window if it comes out as one of them there horn heads. That's what you think, isn't it, Twilight? I'm just a senile old coot, eh?
Twilight was outright fuming at this point, as her wings flared out from side to side. Applejack swore she saw a clump of hair fall out of her mane. She swallowed the last of her watermelon and cleared her throat.
Granny, Twi, calm yourselves down! Don't make me come over there!
Applejack grunted as she tried to sit up more, but it was proving difficult to lift herself more than a few inches. She looked and saw Twilight and Granny looking back at her with incredulous stares. Noticing this, Applejack blushed and meekly reclined back onto her pillow. Looking over the side of her bed littered with plates, she was disappointed to see that there was no more watermelon.
Hey, can one of y'all...
Yeah, I know what you're asking.
Granny Smith interrupted, wobbling over to the bed to pick up the place.
You usually have the appetite of a full-grown stallion. Now you've given me the idea of what a stallion who was with child would eat like.
Granny walked by Twilight, who did not make eye contact with her, and trotted out the doorway. Once out of sight, she called back,
While you're eating these, I'll just have Mac bring up the next batch of melons whole.
Applejack giggled as she burped.
Appreciate it, Granny.
She then looked to Twilight, who was pacing back and forth, scratching the back of her neck. Her eye was again twitching.
Twi? Feeling alright?
Twilight jerked her head and looked back at Applejack face to face. Her eyes were bloodshot.
She hates me.
Applejack cocked an eyebrow.
You really ought to get some sleep.
She patted the empty side of her bed and gave her wife a smile.
Come on, lay with me a while.
She's always had it out for me. I can feel it.
Twilight puffed her chest, furrowed her brow, and puckered her lips.
Why, I say...
She mocked in her best impression of rarity.
I'm just a snooty big city princess who simply can't fathom the ways of a simple country folk. How dare I try to make decisions on how my child to be born? How garnish of me, Applejack, I say!
Don't I get to say how it can be done?
For emphasis, Applejack tapped the side of her massive 10-month-old baby bump. Twilight scoffed.
I really don't think there's a need for discussion here, Applejack. Do you realize ponies have died from giving birth the old way, right? I am not just talking about the mothers. Do you want that, Applejack, huh? Do you want our child to die?
Applejack shrugged.
My dad didn't die. Mac didn't die. I didn't die. Shoot, Applebloom didn't die. You might be a tad overreacted.
Twilight bursted into mock laughter.
Oh, no, Applejack. I'm not overreacting. I'm trying to put my foal through a complication-free birth process, and that is done at a hospital with a medical professional.
At this point, the vein in Twilight's forehead pulsated to the rhythm of her shouts. Her chest puffed in and out. Applejack sighed and rubbed her temple. What was taking Mac so long with those watermelons?
Twi, can you please just come over here and lie down? For me?
I'm not tired, damn it!
Twilight growled back. Applejack darted her eyes at her wife.
Excuse me?
Just let me think for a second.
Twilight plopped on the chair next to the dresser and rubbed her temples. Now Applejack was getting annoyed.
Listen to me, Twilight Sparkle. I don't know what's running through your dang head that's keeping you up, but I know it ain't good for you. So you best come and lie down before you go crazy.
Just...
Twilight said nothing else as she continued rubbing her temples before stopping even that. All that remained was a tense, awkward silence. And still there was no blasted watermelon coming.
I've never felt more powerless in my life.
Twilight piped up again, growling to the floor. Applejack's eye twitched.
Twi, I don't quite get what you mean.
This whole damn time, I have fought every step of this pregnancy by your family and our friends. When I went through the really delicate process, picking the right stallion to be the donor, and everybody just rolls their eyes at me, it's just so much to ask that I have to thoroughly background check the father of our damn child?
Why, to be fair, it was kind of crazy to go back 9 generations for every pony.
No.
Twilight sternly interrupted, glaring with more intensity than Applejack had ever seen.
You are going to listen. I have way too much to say.
Applejack gulped.
Twi, you're scaring me. Please, can we just get some sleep?
I wanted to put you on the right diet. I've read countless of thesis papers and dissertations on the subject. It's good for the baby, so what does your family do? They feed you whatever's in the house and what's on your mind, and then they just scoff at the data I presented.
Twilight stood up and started pacing around the room, wings flailing with exaggerated gestures.
Twi, there was no way I was gonna go on some vitamin supple whatever diet, okay? Can we just drop that?
Applejack, shut up!
Twilight punctuated her verbal attack with a firm smack to the bed, which shook the springs and sent a vibration that AJ felt on the back of her hind legs. A bead of sweat ran down her brow as prickly heat climbed up her back. Applejack didn't know what to say anymore. She wanted to lash out at Twilight, but she was terrified, and at the same time she was worried for her. This wasn't Twilight. Applejack was sure of that. Twilight breathed in and out heavily before muttering,
I can't mess this up, Applejack.
Her voice began a crescendo.
Everything I'm doing is for you and this baby, but I feel like I don't get a say in what happens to it. Like, what am I to you ponies? I'm a neurotic freak who believes in overhyped study she reads, aren't I? Well, excuse me for reading something other than to go by your stupid traditions just 'cause. Oh, but silly me, why listen to crazy old Twilight? I'm just overprotective. I'm an autocrat. Is that it, Applejack? 'Cause it sure hell feels that way. I'm treated by this damn family, but do you care? Oh no! You just sit there with your damn watermelon and watch grandmother act like I don't even get a say on how my child should be raised, let alone how he's born! What am I supposed to do? Stand on the sidelines? I can't do that, Applejack. I won't let this baby down. I don't give a damn! If I don't sleep, I won't.
Twilight's rant descended into rapid breathing as she collapsed against the bed. Her wings had contracted to her sides as tears rushed down her face. Applejack's eyes popped open.
Twi!
She had to do something quick. With as much quickness as her body allowed, she tilted herself to the bedside to try to get on her hooves. Unfortunately, she couldn't stop her body as it quickly gained momentum and was about to roll off the bed and smack onto the floor. Before she could even gasp, she was held up by the magenta glow of Twilight's aura. Applejack looked to see a mad, wide-eyed gaze staring back at her, including a notable grit in Twilight's teeth. Before she could get her bearings, Applejack felt herself softly tossed back against her pillows by Twilight's levitation, and as the aura dissipated around her, Applejack found herself breathing heavily. She wrapped her forelegs around the bump to assure herself it was still there. Applejack leaned back as she watched Twilight crawl anxiously to her end of the bed. What was she going to do? As they came face to face, Twilight panted harder than ever and stared at Applejack with righteous fury.
What was that?
Twilight rasped in aching soreness.
How could you be so reckless? You really could have hurt yourself.
Twilight's lips quivered and her eyes twitched. Teardrops had run down her face previously, but finally, she let it all out in a torrent of exhausted weeping. Applejack felt Twilight bury her face into her shoulder as the tears soaked her coat. At that moment, everything else ceased to matter. The fighting, the bickering, the panicking, all of it was rendered useless. There was only Applejack and her wife who needed her. She ran a hoof down Twilight's ragged mane and whispered softly into her ear over the uncontrollable sobs.
Shh, come on now. It's okay. I got you. You're okay, Twi.
Applejack let her get it out of her system, saying nothing else. Before long, there was only their heavy breathing making noise in the room. Out of the corner of her eye, outside and near the doorway, Applejack saw big red hooves that appeared hesitant to enter, and ultimately retracted themselves from the area, causing her to sigh, a part of her lamenting the fact that she was still hungry, and Mac probably had some watermelon. Still, they could at least be alone for a while. Her train of thought was broken when she heard the loud sniffle of her wife. Applejack looked to see Twilight raise her head. Her face was a complete wreck, with only her tired eyes giving any indication that this was the mare Applejack loved. This was a broken mare, and in Applejack's mind, she was the one to blame for breaking her.
I have no idea what I'm doing,
was all she muttered. Applejack simply gulped and tried to stroke her mane, but Twilight continued.
It's not even with the pregnancy stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do when the baby actually comes. I'm scared, AJ. I'm so scared.
Applejack brought Twilight's head back to her shoulder and stroked her mane.
I am too, Twi. Believe me.
Twilight shook her head in disbelief.
And I'm meaning it too.
She looked at Twilight with utter sternness, causing Twilight to lean back in surprise.
Shoot, you think I've been chill about this? I'm scared of dang near everything that could hurt this baby, and for a while, I was plain scared of stuff I shouldn't be.
She chuckled to herself.
I pretty much stopped reading all those books you wanted me to read because I was having trouble telling the difference between real and fake. This foal's driving me bonkers.
Twilight tried to conceal her grin with a sigh, leaning back into Applejack's shoulder.
You sure don't act like you're bonkers.
I just don't want to worry you. Guess I ain't doing a good job.
Twilight shook her head against Applejack's coat.
This is my fault. I yelled at you and...
Twi, I promise you, it's gonna be fine.
I can't screw this up, AJ, but I have no idea what I'm doing. And I know whatever can't-miss plan I come up with for the foal is just gonna be tossed back in my face. I can't function without a plan, but I can't plan for this. I guess that's why your grandmother keeps doubting me. And now I can't blame her.
But Twi, I don't know what I'm doing either.
Oh, bull spit, Applejack. You always know what you're doing. Unless you're trying to buck all of Sweet Apple Acres by yourself. In that case...
A small smile returned to her face. Applejack placed a hoof on Twilight's lips and chuckled.
Twi, I appreciate it, really, but you gotta know, I know almost nothing about raising little baby foals. I mean, I know what it's like to be an older sister, but I'm really just shooting in the dark about how all the little things are done. That's why I try to listen to Granny Smith and trust her ways. But even after all of that, I know there's so much that can go wrong. But I still feel good about this. Never been happier, I must say.
By the end of her speech, Applejack was grinning ear to ear. Wanting to share the feeling, she removed her hoof from Twilight's mouth and moved in to kiss her, which Twilight returned. All the stress, fights, and tears washed away, and only their warm, honest connection gave any resonance. As they pulled away, Twilight whispered,
I panic easily, and often. I'm afraid to be happy, but I love you so much. And I love him too.
She rubbed Applejack's bump. Applejack cocked an eyebrow.
It's a colt?
I asked Dr. Stable at the ultrasound a few months back when you were in the bathroom. I knew you and Granny wanted to be a surprise. So, surprise!
Applejack shook her head.
You are dang silly. Mwah.
She leaned in to kiss her wife one more time.
I love you too, Twilight. With all my heart. You ain't got to worry with me and him by your side. Remember that.
Twilight merely grinned and shook her head.
I'm always gonna worry.
Applejack stroked her mane again and sighed.
Yeah, I know.
Twilight rested once again against Applejack's shoulder, splaying out her wings and letting them rest on top of the two. A moment of contented silence filled the room, until Applejack piped up again. Twilight murmured in acknowledgement.
What do you say I give birth to him at the hospital? Let a doctor take care of it.
Her wife snuggled up closer and kissed her cheek, whispering,
Thank you.
Applejack smiled.
Love you.
Twilight didn't say anything else, and after a while, Applejack finally felt snores against her neck. Applejack knew a few things. How Twilight was probably going to drool all over her neck and shoulder. How she was going to have to explain to Granny that she was on her wife's side of the argument. And, most of all, that she was still hankering for some watermelon. Most of all, though, there was one important thing that Applejack knew. There was no place she would rather be in that moment than with the two most important ponies in her life.
You're in for the ride of your life, little pony, but I know you're in great hooves. You got me, and you got a mama who worries too dang much. That's just the kind of pony you need to raise you. We love you, little foal. See you soon.